Hi guys, this is Digital Sticks here, and I have a couple different comments to make on this video. They're kind of related, but they're kind of not. The one statement is basically don't expect dramatic improvements of any kind coming to the WMR controllers of the Reverb G2 in its lifetime. Just don't expect it. Microsoft has not shown that kind of commitment to VR. They have not shown that kind of commitment to the end user's experience. It's kind of a surprise that they even did anything for the WMR platform. But when you consider the history of those controllers and what was known, and if you don't have that to consider, you need to kind of learn about that. I'll have to see. I'll have to find out if that's easy to figure out or not. But they basically have always been looked at as a budget device, as a device with lackluster tracking that could still do some of the more basic VR games. And it used to be about half the price most of the time, easily half the price of a Vive kit, and generally half the price of a Rift kit as well. And so that was WMR. The only reason it existed beyond a single device or two was because it was cheap. And so multiple manufacturers could have access to that avenue of producing VR devices. So the actual headset itself isn't nearly as complicated if the tracking is already handled. And so that's where the WMR platform comes in. It had kind of a tracking scheme. That's why the controllers between these devices are pretty much the same, even though the headsets were all somewhat different. Often having the same specs, just with different plastic dressing and stuff, with some true standouts like the Odyssey Plus and of course the Reverb, now the Reverb G2. But that's it. That's WMR. And so they were being interviewed to find out if WMR was even still alive and around and a viable product. And so basically the only positive thing that Microsoft has indicated about WMR was that they claimed they were still fully in support of it. But as far as actually demonstrating value for VR or any kind of innovation or announcing any kind of plans or even making any promises about improvements, none of that exists. So very passively, they've indicated that, it's not dead, we still support it. But realistically, they've not done anything for it. Fast forward to the G2, and then they put a new face on the controllers. Well, something had to be done. There was no way the G2 could get hype if it was very obviously an original WMR device at this point. Like, you could get some people that are going to do the hybrid setup just like they're going to do now, but you weren't going to attract, there's a large percentage of people that would be wise to that. They'd be like, okay, no, I'm not doing a WMR device for my only device. Adding the extra cameras and changing the faceplate on the controllers added a question mark to that, added hope that there was improvements and differences, and it allowed for a discussion to say that, hey, this isn't half bad. If they hadn't changed the faceplate, had added the cameras, nobody, I'd like to say nobody, a large percentage of people out there were just simply not going to listen to what anyone had to say. There's no way you're going to convince somebody that's been in VR for any length of time to spend $600 on a WMR device. It literally took some basis for thinking that it was different to get back in the conversation. And yet you can look at the controllers and see that it's just a different faceplate on the exact same design. The battery life is essentially the same. The battery requirements are the same. And then the tracking quality, the only thing that's different is, the cameras aren't hurting. So what the cameras can see, they track okay. So let's give it that, okay? So the system works in that regard, and it's got predictive motion, and that works. So if you're in motion, that works too. But the cameras the biggest flaw it has is the cameras just don't see enough. They do not have a wide enough field of view, and the most detrimental aspect to its tracking, especially for VR chat and games where you're trying to relax, anything where you're relaxed and staying below Uh, it's like for most people of average height, it's about a foot below their waist. For me, I'd be lucky if I didn't lose tracking at my belly button. So that'd be holding my hands right here, which I talk with my hands and stuff, so that's okay, but I don't stand with my hands up here. I'm not like, hey, I don't stand like this. I don't want to stand like that. It's not even comfortable. I stand like this. I talk, and then also if I'm talking to a person, if I'm not sitting there like looking at myself in the camera, I'm probably more like, if I'm talking, and before I get all animated, I'm more or less just down here. If I'm not actually like making a video, kind of looking at my hands in the camera and doing what I'm doing here, then the rest of my natural hand placement, and the majority of the time I'm just standing around, hanging out, being casual, is outside of the Reverb G2 tracking. That's not getting better. Now, Oculus uses infrared on their controllers, and WMR is using visual LEDs. The Cosmos that failed was also using visual LEDs. So those are more affected. Those systems are more affected by room lighting and all of that as well. But more than that, that may be a factor in the occlusion being more of a problem. And also that may be interfering with the ability to make the cameras see a wider field of view. Like it may be easier for the Oculus cameras to distinguish the infrared LEDs through a more dramatic fisheye lens than is even possible with the WMR lens. So I don't know what goes all into the lens selection, but it's just very obvious that the Reverb G2's cameras cannot see far enough down. And then of course the loss of tracking above your head is equally bad. Like from here up, tracking's gone also. So that works for most gameplay, but that's definitely immersive braking in VR. That's going to be far less of an issue, but it would be immersive braking for VR, and that's going to look more bizarre than when you lose tracking when your hand's already down. But it's there, and that's a serious handicap. So, if your budget is limiting what you're getting and you're having to choose between compromised devices, it's a tough call, because I haven't worn a Reverb G2, but I'm completely confident with Valve's participation and what I've seen from I'm completely confident it's every bit as comfortable as people say it is. I'm confident in that. So I know it's confident. I know the audio is great. I don't dispute the visual quality. So the headset, the HMD itself is excellent. If you're in a position that you're you already have trackers and you just got to pick up dongles to use index controllers with it or whatever, and you want it, as long as you don't, with the hybrid setup, go ahead, and that's fine. We'll just let that go. Like if you're using an original Vive and you're wanting that, if you've got index controllers with your Vive and stuff like that, well, then it's certainly a feasible option. You're going to get better visuals and stuff. But if you've never experienced the hybrid setup, and you've been used to having a Vive where all that's fluid and no issues, that could be something you regret sticking yourself with. That's my only warning there. But in general, as far as gameplay and stuff, once you go through whatever you got to go through to make it work, while it's working, it's going to be great with the index accessories. Okay, we're not disputing that. But that's not where the buzz is from. The buzz, there is some from that, but the majority of it is about this $800 headset instead of a $1,000 headset to get something better than a Quest 2 and all of that. And unfortunately, the tracking situation and the controllers lacking capacitive touch has taken it out of that equation. And again, my point, I've discussed that to no end, of course. My point here is that's not changing. That is not going to change for the Reverb G2. As a complete package, it's going to always be handicapped. Microsoft is not going to ship out brand new redesigned controllers to every person that purchased a Reverb G2. I seriously doubt they're going to come up with any kind of new redesigned controller that's going to be easily added to new kits going forward or available as a aftermarket purchase. I'm completely okay with and would love to be wrong about that. I absolutely would, and I will come up and apologize like, hey, but I won't be, I'm not doing you wrong. I am not trying to be negative. I am just simply being honest and pointing this out, that before you purchase this device, you have to decide, are you really okay with it just like it is? And how long are you trying to stick with that? And if you want to play VR chat, you're making a mistake. If you don't have any intention or see any path forward to make it a hybrid setup to kind of redeem the compromises, you're making a mistake if you get a Reverb G2. I mean, you're free to make that mistake, and you could have your valid reasons why you're doing that as well, but you already know that, and you're not really needing my opinion to guide you through that. But if you're wanting VR for this game, you're making a mistake if you get the Reverb G2 with the intention of indefinitely or permanently using it as its own kit, period. Okay? Leaving out discussions of hybrid setups. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's just the reality of it. Okay, now the second part of this conversation, which I shouldn't add because I went so far with that, but I really don't even want to make another Reverb G2 only video. But in the process of discussing that was considerations of what Reverb could do for a new headset. I don't know how practical it would be for HP to try to design their own tracking system, inside-out tracking system. It's really hard to say how feasible that is, because the bottom line is Oculus has pulled it off. Everyone else has failed at it. And so, excuse the background noise, but I'm not going to mute my son over this. So he's just watching YouTube. But anyways, yeah, Oculus has pulled it off. Everyone else has failed. The Cosmos tracking was unplayable. The WMR is playable, but far from sufficient for relaxed and quality VR immersion under all circumstances, and questionable for competitivity, at least on some games. I mean, again, reviewers were rage quitting during their review test of a device. Like, that particular game was probably not about competition for them, but the tracking scenarios that it was creating, especially having to hold their hands up so high to be tracked, was frustrating them to no end, to the point that even for a review, they're like, forget it, I'm done. That is telling. The other thing that's telling, and I put out trying to get people to do it, where is the gameplay? All these people excited about Reverb G2. When have you seen someone excited about a headset that they did not take to streams and make videos of using it in VR chat? Extended footage so you can get an idea of the experience. The Reverb G2 is the first one to be out, have that many reviews, that much attention, and extremely little footage of it in VR chat. And even the footage that was shown, Thrillseeker did some editing there. His is so brief that he's telling you the truth about it, but he's not actually letting you see it so you could appreciate it. So if I'm wrong about all of this stuff, somebody prove it. There's been enough dislikes on my videos that there should be somebody that can step up and be like, yo, look, haha, Digital Sticks was stupid. I paid $800 and it's got an index killer for sure. Do it. Show us. I'm cool with it, Show us. At this point, I might need you to be on webcam plus VR chat. No, I don't know. We'll see, because if you've got active tracking down here and you're moving your hand slow, then you're just, it's a fraud, because I've already seen that video demonstrated. That is an absolute dead zone, fully verified. All right. Anyways, that's enough of that. Okay, so again, back to where this discussion was going. The other aspect of it was, I think, okay, I'm going to skip the details of how I got there, but I arrived at the point that Valve would probably be better served to try to build a budget headset rather than an Index 2 if they had to choose one or the other. And they might even be doing this because the talk of an Index 2, the only thing that's come out about it is indicating better sourced parts. So it wasn't about features. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to blow the away. It was more like it was more addressing the trouble with the availability for the Index than it was about addressing features. So maybe they're even already on this, but the reality is what we need is a budget option that isn't compromised in unacceptable ways. And the only people that have these things that aren't frustrated by that, a lot of them just simply have no concept of what it is to have a quality headset, and other people are just having it as a secondary toy, and they don't mind doing mods and making it work. But when it comes to just straightforward buying quality VR and, hey, if you buy this device, you're good, past the Index, there's no device that you can confidently say that to anybody with. You can try to spin wireless possibilities with the Quest as a reason to have it over other devices, but past that, there's no reason to have a Quest over any other PC VR headset if you're exclusively looking for PC VR. And the wireless is that on to really, you need to have a full conversation to paint that picture with the proper full disclosure so someone could actually know what they're getting into before they think of it. Oh, wireless PC, cool. It's not that simple. It's not terribly difficult, but it's not that simple. It's not like, oh, this one has a cord, this one doesn't. Which one do you want? It can't. That's a lie if you get to that point. Okay, especially when you look into what's officially supported. Officially supported, there are no wireless headsets other than Vive products with an official Vive adapter. Just FYI. So there's more to the story about Quest Wireless. But apart from that, the bottom line is it doesn't offer the basics of a quality VR headset out of the box. And because of WMR tracking, the Reverb G2 doesn't either. So you're still left with the Index. The Index is a premium headset. The Index was designed to be a premium headset. The Index has a premium price. The Index has a fair price for what it offers, but it does offer more than most people should need. The problem is it's also the only device that offers the basics that everybody should have. And that's where my endorsements come from. That's why I'm encouraging people to challenge themselves on what they can afford. Not because premium VR is that critical, but because having the basics of what you need is that critical. And unfortunately, the only kit that has them is the Index kit. That's frustrating. It's madness when you just simply want to tell people how to get good VR. When people are asking what's a good VR headset, that the answer that they're looking for isn't what's the most premium VR headset, but yet to actually give them the honest answer that would meet anybody's reasonable definition of a good headset, you have to jump up to the Index. You literally have to, or you've got to go into a major discussion about compromises and see like, hey, well, I'm prejudging you as being unable to afford a good headset. So these are the things you can choose between. You can have poor audio and no comfort, or you can have comfort and great audio, but not be able to play the game properly, but you'll be comfortable while not playing the game properly. Which one do you want? That's literally what you are choosing from for anything less than an Index. It is ridiculous. It's uncalled for. It's terrible. That's why Valve needs to make the best possible budget headset that covers all the basics, and that would be more beneficial to VR and to them and everyone than making an Index 2 that's the next step in premium device. I know there's people with money not being an object that want to chase that better device. I understand that, and if Valve can make that too, that's great. But we need a budget device, and unfortunately, they probably can't cut it by much. I would speculate the best they could get a headset down to with reasonable specs is going to be about $700 with Steam VR tracking. But can they leave off the finger tracking? Still leave obviously capacitive touch on buttons, but could they leave off the finger tracking? Would that take down the price of index controllers? Could they go ahead and leave off the trackpad, which a lot of people don't like and few people actually use? Of course, they use it for Half-Life Alyx, but it's not critically important. Could they leave that off and save money? Can they get a budget controller option available? That would be huge for a lot of people. That'd be huge for Reverb G2 users that are trying to make it work too. They don't have to, they're trying to get a good headset on a budget. They would have options too. And then the headset itself. I don't know what it costs for them to do this audio solution, but can they go to some kind of design where you get something a little simpler, less expensive, that comes with the headset, and then have the option for a deluxe Valve audio strap that upgrades you to the full index hearing? Because the index audio is excellent. The idea that the Valve would produce a headset without this as an option would be terrible. But if it adds a lot of cost to the product, then if they could make it optional, that would also help create a solid entry point for somebody with a good path forward. SteamVR supports tracking by default, so any kind of budget headset Valve created already has the advantage of a large portion of its cost being something that a lot of people are going to spend later anyways. When I've talked about the base stations and everything, if you considered definitely that you were going to want tracking, if Valve produced a $700 headset using base stations, you could then turn around and that'd be dang near neck and neck the price of a Quest 2 with a hybrid setup. Plus, it would be cheaper than by the time you made a Quest 2 comfortable. Valve, you can do this. We need Valve to do this because people are being attracted to these cheap headsets like bugs to a bug zapper. You cannot convince them of the importance of these other aspects. And I get it. I mean, we're talking about people new to VR. They can describe what VR is, and they think that when they imagine VR, that's what they're imagining until they experience it and get their minds blown, and then they realize, like, wow. And then they would still describe it just as they always did, but now they know that what they always imagined wasn't enough. It's mind-blowing. That's the introduction to VR. So without experiencing VR, you can't really appreciate just how important these little things are. They seem like little things. They are portrayed as little things when there's excitement over the cheapness of a device. They aren't little things. And the enthusiasm for the Index is not a flex. It is not a boast about that. I mean, I know I've said you get what you pay for because that's true, but it's not even that. It's simply the fact that the only headset that you can buy that has the basics of a quality full VR experience is the Index. It's also a premium headset, so it's got beyond the basics, and it was designed to be beyond the basics. It was designed to be beyond the basics when the competition that was out was about the basics. It was designed to be a next level premium option when people were in VR with either a CV1 or the Vive. There wasn't any gimmicks out there. Base level VR was covered. There was no need for competition at the base level. The opening for Valve was the premium level. Facebook, for all the people saying Facebook is good for VR, guys, Facebook is the only reason why there is no good option for quality VR short of a Valve Index. It's not Valve, it's Facebook. Facebook took a company that made quality VR as its goal, they bought it, and they put out junk and gimmicks, and people are soaking it up because the enthusiasm basically generated by quality VR made a few people want it, and now suddenly it's cheap, and they don't have to have a computer, and they can grab it. Facebook is ruining VR devices and experiences for people. Facebook is giving people cheap devices, but it's robbing people of a reasonable option to buy a quality VR device at an affordable price. It's robbing you the option of just a fair entry level start. Because the Quest 2, it's only entry level because it's the one you're going to buy to start VR if you're on a budget. But it's not really entry level device. It's below that. I don't care about the specs. I don't care about the resolution people are bragging about. That comes at a price of things that should have never been optional. Period. That's the truth. The people that are hyping that device and excited about it and talking about it being good for VR to get people in and budgets and stuff like that, they all use index kits, okay? They don't give a damn about you. They don't care that you're getting ripped off. They don't care that it's a gimmick. You're watching their channels. You're liking their videos. You're subscribing to their content. You're buying stuff from their affiliated channels. You're their patrons. You tune in when they get to preview another one of these hack job devices. You're their merchandise. They don't care that that's a bogus device that nobody with integrity would tell you is the one you really should have for VR, okay? They are patronizing you. They are convincing themselves that they are doing you a favor by presuming that there's no way you can afford a $1,000 kit. And they're totally ignoring the fact that for $500, you should have quality VR without any questions. For $350, you used to be able to have it at the current standard. And that same standard could still be available for $350 if we dodge the mobile gimmick attempting to trap you into an Oculus platform. I digress. I'm Digital Sticks, and yeah, I get a little animated about that because it is true. The Index, what I love about it is that it meets the basics. And yeah, it's got some premium features, but I like it because it meets the basics. I'm using it with a 1080 Ti. That means I have an acceptable performance. I am not taking it to next level, and I'm happy with it because it's got the basics. Okay, that 1080 Ti is able to do more with an Index than it could do with the original Rift. I can see stuff clearly. I can read text. I've got options. But most of the time I use VR, I'm in VR chat, we're playing Beat Saber. I'm in apps that don't even need that extra resolution to be enjoyable. I don't mind having it, but when it comes to like the Quest 2 and stuff like that, the CV1 was better. By far. Where that's a struggle for people to accept is if you're trying to race or something, and especially if you're going to a higher resolution, you go back. Trying to play a game like that where distance helps a lot, then yeah, you start to get into a challenge with the resolution. But the thing is the next device up should have simply been better resolution, not a compromise. If it cost $100 more, it would be worth it, and it'd be a much better deal to cost $100 more than the first generation device and be as good and better than it is to cost the same or less and be a mess. And that's Facebook. Oculus is just a brand. The company is long dead, in case anybody hasn't caught on. I did not mean to get passionate about VR, but I am. Obviously, that's why I produce freaking content, people. It really is. It's a cool medium. It's really important. And if people would catch on to it and get onto it and promote good companies, it could get back to what it's supposed to be. I don't know that that's going to happen. All I know is right now it's still possible for people to get a good experience. What's going to be available for the future at this rate, I don't know. If more people woke up and wanted quality, if somebody could come in and make a legitimate budget device and actually make sure it's done right, then things can change. But if it stays at this, where there's a premium device out there and everything else is junk, then no, the VR that I came to love, that all elements of that are going to die. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. All right, I'm Digital Sticks. I'm out. Thank you for watching.